All right, man, FightHype.com here with one of the best prospects in all of boxing. Still only 19 years old, Joey Spencer, 7-0, 6 knockouts in the 154-pound junior middleweight division. Joey, man, I've been to a lot of gyms in Vegas, but this one has that old school traditional feel, that traditional boxer feel. Where are we? We're on the east side of Vegas. What's the name of this gym?
We're at the Las Vegas Fight Club, and this was a gym that I did a lot of sparring in the amateurs. I got some guys that I came up with here that train here, and the coaches have always been really good to me and my dad, and always welcomed us. So we decided to stop in, in one of my last workouts before my fight to get a quick one in, get a quick workout.
Now your father and trainer Jason, he said that you used to spar, and you mentioned it, so you used to spar guys who were headed to the Olympics here in this very gym.
Yeah, USA team guys, you know what I mean, that would, and then a lot of people, I guess he just said Shakur was here last week too, they just, they're involved in amateur boxing a lot, so it's just, they got a lot of different fighters, a lot of different weights, you just can get some good work. So whenever I was in Vegas, we would come to Vegas and just spend full 2 weeks just hitting different gyms and sparring, whether it be, Mayweather's and here and other gyms that I know of. And this was always one that you could always come and maybe work with 2 or 3 different guys and just round robin it and just, bring in a few guys and everybody get work, whether it be my little brother or some partners that we were, bringing in training partners and just get good work all around. So, it's good. It's always good to come back, to somewhere that you kind of came up.
Was any of that work in this here gym, was that done with what we call notable names now? I mean,
no notable names. A lot of them,
because they're too young from the 20s.
They're still actually training to get to the,
were they Olympians?
The Olympic games. They haven't yet because they're more my age. The guys that I used to come here to spar. But basically, they're probably still, fighting USA tournaments and stuff like that. So I was one of the ones on that squad that kind of turned young. So, yeah.
So you've trained out here in Las Vegas quite a bit, but
I've had a few like sparring trips over here where we'd come spending, longer amounts of time in sparring.
But isn't this your Las Vegas debut? Your first professional?
No, this is my second. My actual pro debut. Oh yeah, my pro debut was here in Vegas at Mandalay. So this will be my second fight in Vegas. Yeah.
So what's it like when you, as a young guy who wants to marquee in Vegas one night, be the headliner? But what's it like to be?
This is a step up. So actually, my first fight, there was nobody in the stands, and it was really surreal for me then too, because the last 2 fights that I've been at were the Kovalev 1 fight and the Kovalev 2 fight. I forgot whether it was 1 or 2. I think one was at AT&T, the new stadium, and then
T-Mobile.
one was at
T-Mobile. Yep.
And then the other one was at Mandalay Bay.
Right.
So I think it was the second one because it was fresh after that I made my pro debut at Mandalay Bay. And obviously Andre, somebody I looked up to, I was able to be in the the locker room and be at the fight and watch firsthand my favorite fighter of all time, fight his last fight. So he retired before I made my debut, and then I made my pro debut at Mandalay after watching him do that. So it was kind of a surreal thing then. And I remember my cut man said, Mike Rodriguez, before the fight, he wrapped my hands up, and I looked out, and you can see the TV, the undercard was going on, or there were some fights before me. I was like the 3rd fight or something. There was absolutely nobody in the crowd except for my family. There was because everybody came out for my debut, so there was 30 people in one section. Other than that, there was nobody there, and I was like, man, it's kind of cool, crazy, it's such a big arena, but nobody's in there. He was like, you're just gonna keep going, there's gonna be bigger crowds, and you're just gonna work up, and the next thing you know, you're gonna be looking out, and it's gonna be, you're fighting for a title, and it's gonna be full, And so this fight, my last few fights, I fought in front of big crowds and
on television.
On television, they moved me. That one was untelevised, and I'm usually fighting as a co-feature right before the main event, and I believe that's how it's going to be this time too. From what I've heard. So basically, we might have a little bit more of a crowd, than I did in my pro debut. So it's just kind of a cool thing.
So you went from being the door opener, let's say, to very well the co-feature and on television this time around.
Yeah, it could be cool.
So that's interesting though. So Andre, he fights in Mandalay Bay, last fight of his career, your favorite fighter of all time. Yeah. And then shortly after, you make your debut in Las Vegas. So as one door closed, you being your favorite fighter of all time, the door to your professional career began.
So that was the way I saw it.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. And it was just cool to be I was familiar there, because being in the back, being and seeing how everything was as far as the arena goes, I was really familiar with it. So I was in one of the locker rooms that I was going and wandering around, you know, the night of the fight.
Right.
So it was just cool, kind of, like you said, that kind of ended that way. And just an amazing few years of experience I had in that gym too, you know, watching him train and things like that. And then going into my first fight, being in the same place, just kind of cool.
Well, it's also interesting because I believe I heard Andre, he talked about Roy and Bernard Hopkins, it might have been, and he said he used to be in their locker rooms before their big fights here in Las Vegas. So you kind of did the same thing we did the exact same thing with Andre Ward. And well, so since we're on that, how much did Andre Ward, how much to this day is he affecting you as a fighter?
He knows how much he affects me. And,
let him know.
Well, I mean, I'd say, like I told my dad, you know, this not too long ago, it's crazy because there's nobody, and there was nobody back then, before I met him, that I would have rather watched. If I had a fight, like anybody wanted to put on, you know, something on the TV, I wanted to put an Andre Ward fight on. If I wanted to study anybody as far as the fight style, it'd be Andre Ward. And there was just always something like about his style and him as a person that drew me to, you know, being a fan of him. So being a 9-year-old kid all the way through, you know, always studying his fights before amateur fights and stuff like that, to being in his gym, to being able to get to watch him train. And he's just, I've been around a lot of, you know, different people as far as, you know, in my short time in the pros and as far as pro boxers and seeing people train, nobody trains like Andre Ward. You know, he's like a superhero in the gym. You know, it's like he trains just ultimate, you know, dedication, focus, discipline. There's nobody who does it like him. You know, and I think, you know, I had never gotten the privilege to be around Floyd in the gym, you know, watching him train. But from what I hear, that's how he trains too. And Andre is also talking about being young and his manager taking him out to a Floyd training camp and him getting to see that. And I hold myself, you know, the way I started this was, I don't think he even knows how much that affected me and the privilege of being able to watch him in the gym. Because every day that I train, I hold myself to his standard. And he doesn't even know that, you know, but I hold myself to the standard of me seeing how he trained, and I always think what would Dre do in this situation in the gym, because there's nobody better to model yourself after as far as a dedication, you know, work ethic standpoint than Dre Ward.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because Andre's known as being such a classy guy. He's classy, and you got that too already at 19. So it makes sense you would vibe with Andre Ward, but take even forgetting the outside of the ring for a minute. You know boxing so well. Can you explain to us what you see in the ring from Dre that made you look up to him as a fighter in the ring?
Just the mental standpoint. You couldn't break him, you know, and that's a big thing. He used to say, you know, I'm not the most talented guy in the world. He was talented. Everybody knows that. He's being modest when he says that. But that's a mindset that he had. I may not be the fastest. I may not be the strongest, you know, on any given night, but I'm going to be the most well-trained. I'm not going to cut any corners, so that won't be a problem when I step in the ring. You're going to get the 100% of me every time. And no matter what you say, what you do, I'm never out of the fight. He proved that in Kovalev 1. You know, I think that was just a big part of his legacy, coming back from that. You know, people can say whatever they want, but that was, you know, greatness right there. And so I think that was my favorite part about him, is the mental aspect that he carried, just the mental strength that he carried into the ring every time.
Well, just to be a nerd though for a minute.
Yeah.
What's something you like? Was one thing you liked about him technically? A certain.
He had his jab body that he kind of says that he stole from Floyd Mayweather. I think he had a better jab body than even Floyd did. You know.
Well, then he kind of step into it more like a right hand.
It was like so precise and hard, like a right hand. It took the air out of dudes, and it was amazing. And then he had an old school stance that the old fighters.
Right.
You know, he kind of had the magic wand. And that was something that you can use as a range fighter to keep somebody off you that not a lot of new fighters use today. And I try to use it, you know, in sparring, and I, you know, just looking up to him and things like that. But that's a throwback. It's a throwback. If you go back and watch older fighters, and I remember one time, Andre didn't look like other fighters. You know, you didn't say, oh, he's like Bernard, kind of like Bernard, though. You know what I mean?
That's who
Bernard
he got compared to,
you know
the
I mean?
most.
Yeah, he had that same type of stance. But Bernard's a throwback fighter too, as far as the technique goes. And I remember one time Burge had us sitting on the ring, and after the training session, and it went on for like an hour, him just pulling up different old fights and different old stuff that he had saved on his phone that it was just like way throwback, guys that I don't even know their name. And I was like, man, that looks just like Andre Ward. You know? And he was talking about And I used to think, you know, because he didn't remind me of anybody, you know, maybe Bernard Hopkins, but as far as those two are very unique in that way. And I think back on it, and I'm like, and I remember saying, I used to think he was like ahead of his time, but really, he is ahead of his time, but really he was a throwback, you know? And it's like, the game's evolved, but he's proof, and Bernard's proof that you take the old school nuances of boxing, the sweet science, you can bring it into the new era, you know, and dominate guys who are actually, you know, maybe have evolved into a new style, you know what I mean? So it's just really cool. I think Floyd's like that too, because, you know, he took a art form like the Philly shell that, you know, only a couple guys before have been used and mastered it, and you see what it did to the new generation after generation, you know, so it's cool.
Well, I'm happy you brought up that it is old school, because it seems like once, I mean, the shoulder roll was always there, but once Floyd basically mastered it, it really caught fire with these great new fighters like yourself and Teofimo and Devin and even Ryan Garcia. They Canelo shoulder rolling. So it's interesting, but we don't. But so you like that old school style, but for the most part, we're seeing you do the newer stuff that Canelo's doing, and so
because I think it's important to, you know, mix in Canelo's a new Canelo, like you said. People combine things. So Canelo uses the shoulder roll because Floyd showed people how, and I hate it when people are like, oh, you shouldn't try to be Floyd when you're using the shoulder roll, because
that is a common
some people
complaint.
are trying to be Floyd when they do it, and it's embarrassing. You know what I mean? You should stop. You know, it's like, if you're trying to be Floyd, then stop it. But if you just recognize, like I said with Dre and Bernard's stance, you can use that, and then you can switch to a shoulder roll, and then you can, like Caleb Plant brought it all together in his fight against Uzakazi, perfect. All you gotta do is go watch it. And you can see it was like beautiful how he mixed all those old school and new school styles and brought them together and kind of did like a three-part, like, you know, technical masterpiece throughout that fight, you know. And you should always be trying to look for things. The shoulder roll is just straight up effective. It just is, you know. And you can't fall in love with it because there's certain guys that can, you know, penetrate it. As far as like, you're never going to be as good as Floyd had it, so you can't fall in love with it. But at the same time, it is effective. Canelo kind of goes to it and then goes away from it and then goes back to it. He'll go up to a high guard and then go to the Philly. So that's cool too. And you should always be trying to figure out new ways to. You should look at the best and try to take things in. You know, and if you've got the talent and you've been doing it for long enough, you can get it quick too.
So for the old timers out there, old school trainers, when they do you want to tell them, because I think they see, well, we know you could roll with the shoulder and come back with the, you could do the fancy stuff, but we still want to know you got the jab and the old school fundamentals. You got that, is what you're saying. You can mix the old school with the fun school, the new school. Right.
Fundamentals are the most important. If you got a good coach, then you know, then they know when you've met, like, all right, he's been doing this since he was 4. He knows the jab, he knows whatever.
Right.
And then that's the difference between the guys who never leave the amateurs, you know, and like the old school coaches who like kind of stay, you know, too old school because, you know, they never let their fighter evolve. Like,
hands up,
I've seen that so many times where a guy's like, he's got that stuff now, and then that's the phase 1, you know. Phase 2 is when they start to like figure out their own style. You know what I mean? Like, I was actually just watching like a martial arts video the other day, a Muay Thai video about like the Muay Thai fighting. They talk about once they learn the kick, once they learn the technique, then they start, and that's phase 1, and then phase 2 they start to come into their own style. It's the same thing with boxing. You learn the fundamentals, but then you gotta let your fighter even get hit a little bit when he's first trying to figure out his style. You know, like, he might be like trying to play with the Philly, get smacked, and it's like, he'll learn from that, you know, and then he'll try to figure out, you gotta let your fighter come into it. But I've seen so many coaches be like, cut that out, get back to the jab, get back,
right,
you know, just because it's not working when they first started trying it. But you gotta try some things.
And I'm just happy you brought up Caleb Plant, because talking with Caleb out here in Vegas, he thinks very highly of you. I just want to get your thoughts on Caleb as a fighter and how you think his fight July 20 goes with Mike Lee.
I don't know too much about Mike Lee. I watched a couple highlight videos, and from what I've seen, he's just not on his level. You know, not on Caleb's level. Caleb should have it, he should have an easy night, I think, against Mike Lee. So I think it's just kind of he had a real hard fight against Uzakazi. He deserves a show-out, you know, fight against Mike Lee, and then I got no doubt that he'll be fighting, you know, fighters, you know, that are going to be really interesting in this year, you know, next year. But he deserves it because he's had a tough road to the title and then won the title, and now he can go. I'm not saying he's picking easy fights. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm saying that this is an easier fight, and he deserves it. You know what I mean? Just chill a little bit, you know.
Well, everybody, after you fight a tough fighter like Cota, you deserve
and a tough fight. You
right.
deserve to come back and, you know, get a fight under your belt as a champ, and then, you know what I mean.
But I mean, he was even ringside in Minnesota for your last fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so just to kind of finish on him, is he a guy with talking about skills and all that? You can appreciate what he does.
Oh man, he's my favorite active fighter right now.
Dang.
I mean, I've watched his Uzakazi fight a million times, and I kid you not, like, a million times literally. He's just brought it all together, and I think he's going to be one of the special fighters. You know what I mean? I think he really is. People hate on him, but they just don't know boxing. They don't know boxing. People, if you're sleeping on Caleb Plant, you need to look closer. You know, you really do, because he's the special one. You know, like when he had his fight against Uzakazi, where it all came together, it was like Andre's fight against Michael Kessler, you know, where it just come out party, you know what I mean? And everybody still slept on Andre Ward when that happened. And it's like, even though that was the guy they picked to win the tournament, the Super Six, Andre beats him, just destroys him. They come up with all this stuff like, why this guy will beat you and this guy? No, he could. So it's cool, and I think that Caleb's gonna be the same kind of fighter. I really do. I think that he's gonna clean.
Same weight Dre was at when he beat Kessler.
Yeah. He's awesome, man. Awesome. He's a great guy too.
And just closing up, Joey, who's the next victim Sunday night? And your last fight went the distance, first time in your career.
Yeah.
Do you want a knockout this time?
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Absolutely. There were some things in my last fight that were, you know, that I haven't brought up, that were, you know, behind closed doors in training camp with my health and things like
feel
that.
free. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, I had some health, you know, problems in my training camp that kind of stalled my training camp and affected my weight cut quite a bit for the last fight. So I was happy with going 6 rounds. I wouldn't change a thing because I got that experience. And
yeah, I mean, just so people can see too, you're a big guy for 154.
Yeah, so it is a tough weight cut. I'm on weight. Like, my weight cut's been great, as it usually is. I had, like I said, I had some health problems that kind of stalled my weight cut and prolonged it to the end, more to the end than usually even, and kind of caused me to feel some sluggishness. And you know, I think if that wouldn't happen, I don't think I would have gone to distance the last fight. But with that being said, I'm glad I did go to distance, because like I said, that's a lot of experience that might not have come for a long time after. And this fight, man, just wait to see. You know, just wait to see. I'm on one. Like, I'm really on. And in this training camp, I'm on point, and I'm ready to come in and really do my thing.
Is it a thing where when you're in this mind state, you're hungry for a knockout? You could almost, I don't know, feel it pulsating?
I just want a dominant performance. I don't care if it's a knockout or if it's a 6-round fight. You know, you can't get carried away with a knockout, you know what I'm saying? So, and you can't get carried away. You can't be looking for a knockout all the time, bro. You got to be ready to go 6, because you fall in love. That was one thing that I did learn about the last fight. You fall in love with the knockout, then you go 6 unexpectedly. You got to be ready for whatever, and I'm ready for whatever. All I know is that I'm in shape, ready, and had a great training camp. So I'm ready for 6 rounds or a knockout, and the knockout may come, but I'm ready for the other, you know, opportunity to go the distance again.
And Joey, before we see you get to work, really looking forward to watching this. Anything else you want to let the fans know at FightHype, man?
Man, follow me on Instagram at Joey D. Spencer, and I appreciate FightHype. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, Joey.